Over the past few episodes, we've been gradually expanding Fishers Point, the old downtown of Fewladelphia, which has been given a new lease of life. And with that redevelopment, the city has found that tourists have been flocking to the area, attending events at the old salt sheds, watching football games, and visiting the historic Navy Yards. But there's one major attraction missing from the map, one huge monument dating back to medieval times, which was the sole reason citizens settled in Fewladelphia at all. So today we're finishing off the peninsula, addressing service and leisure needs, and adding a huge amount of history to the city. Let's dive in. So just before we dive in today, we are getting ever closer to 40,000 subscribers. So if you're new to the channel and you've been enjoying the content, why not hit that subscribe button? And while you're at it, hit the thumbs up and drop me a comment for the sake of engagement. It goes a long, long way to help the channel. So yes, Fishers Point is nearing its completion. We do have this area out here, which we're going to be addressing today, with several different little builds within it. And I'm going to start off with this peninsula out here, which you may remember last time I mentioned was going to be, partially at least, an abandoned rail yard. And that is because we've had this tram line in through Fishers Point for a long time, which runs all the way up alongside our main collector here. And with this area having once been a big functional harbour and the kind of centre trade hub for Fewladelphia, I want it to appear like rail was once here. So the tram line's obviously taken over this section of the track. But as we come out here, we're going to have the old rail yard that went into the harbour at this point. So that's one thing that I do want to create at that end of it. But I also want to utilise some of this space for some services, because we're in desperate need of a few different things. So even though our citizens are actually pretty happy at the moment, unreliable mail service is, yeah, well, we're not doing too well in that regard. So we do need to address that. And the first thing is mailboxes. So I have dotted in a few around the stadium district and the port, which I had previously forgotten. So we've got those in. We do need to remember to probably have a couple more maybe around this area, but actually we're fairly well covered around the outside. Probably got a few too many, if anything. But we do not have a post office in Fishers Point. So I want to address that. So big shout out to Sambor, who mentioned this asset, and I really hadn't considered it actually as part of our Navy Yard. It's kind of got that look and feel that we'd probably want around this district to it. But the modernist post office, this building, is awesome and I love it. However, the asset is massive. So what we're actually going to do is use a vanilla ploppable version of it and turn it into a post office by using the block services. So I really like this asset and I want to keep it in here and I want to utilise it in this space, but I don't want all the fluff that comes around it. And the other issue with it as well is these big plain walls we have on the back that I'm not like super in love with. So what we're actually going to do here is use two of them and we're going to fuse them in together to create one building. And we're going to stick this window and this door out the side at a slight offset to the main building here. So we still retain all of our windows and our decals around the front, and same goes for this side as well. And it just gives us a little bit of a nicer finish than having those big plain walls. Because the other thing is, as well with this asset, is that we can't recolour it. So there's no option to change the colours on it. So it'd have those big plain cream walls, which, yeah, I don't like too much. Now, I do just want to make sure, because we've got the old rail line is going to be coming in here, that we don't actually have enough space as it is at the moment. So let's grab this road and we're just going to do a little bit of shifting. And just move it a little bit closer to the edge of this harbour area here. We've got two nodes fairly close together, but I think we can manage with that. And then we'll grab our two buildings and we can just shift this up right against the edge of the road like that. And that should give us enough room to bring in the rail line behind it. So let's just start by putting in those rail lines, because that's going to be used as a boundary for where we're going to keep our post vans and that sort of thing around the post office, because we're going to need to put in that block service in just a second. So I'm going to go ahead and drop those in. And we're going to use T-Gun's two-way train track unelectrified, so we don't get those electric poles in it, which I think is going to be pretty important to the aesthetics of what we want to have in here. So that should do pretty nicely. And the other thing I do want to do is I really want to have some sort of old harbour cranes in here. However, this is just way too big. If I sort of hover it over in this area, I mean, it's going all kinds of loopy here. But you can see the height of it for Fisher's Point. It's just going to dominate the entire skyline. So I just feel like it's too big for what we want. And I'm quite tempted to actually use this cargo rail terminal crane here just to give us that little bit of old infrastructure that was once upon a time here and has been left in place. So something along those lines. And then we can just tidy up some of these rail lines. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then it also leaves us this space here where we can add in our post vans and also some garbage service, I'm thinking. So I'm thinking after the post office, we'll transfer it into a bit of a junkyard, but make it actually functional garbage service, because we do have a few garbage warnings over here. We've also got Deathcare, which we're going to come on to as well in this area. So for our postal service, let's get the block service and let's add it right in the middle here. And then if we can pick it up, which we can add in the extra vehicles and extra functions for it. Now, I think what we really need actually to make them more happy with our mail service is also a post sorting facility. So sorts post for further distribution. Now we have got an absolute bunch of progression points to spend, and that's only 2. So I think let's just go ahead and unlock that and see if we can do some upgrades on this. So I definitely want more mail storage. So let's go ahead and drop in 2 of those. Why not? We'll also add in a sorting facility just so we can get that done. And what are we on in terms of monthly spend? Not that much at the moment. We need some post vans in. So yeah, we do have these blocks of 5. And the only thing with them is that they do have this yellow line against it. So it does create quite a defined yard for them, which I don't mind too much. So I think we can utilise 2 of these perhaps against the edge of the road like that. And then we can go ahead and add in some more service vehicle parking up back here, I think, so they can sort of drive through the middle is what I'm anticipating for this. We can put in an invisible network as well to make sure that that happens. And they're all immediately leaving, and they are using our invisible path, which is kind of cool to see from the back area. I don't know why our decals have disappeared. We might add those back in. But anyway, it's functional, it's working. So we have ourselves a post sorting facility and a post office on the edge of Fisher's Point. Hopefully that will help to reduce some of that negative happiness. And then, as mentioned, we can also use these block services for garbage. So we've got this garbage service block or recycling. I think we're just going to use garbage for this. And we're going to hide it in a bit of a small industrial building and turn it into a junkyard. But we're also going to need space, obviously, for some garbage trucks in here as well. So let's find ourselves a suitable industrial building. I'm thinking something relatively small, such as this one here will probably do quite nicely. And then we can go ahead and add in our garbage block into here. And then we can see what we can do to it as well. So we can add a garbage dump box for storing 100 tons of garbage. Wonderful, we're going to need that because we've only got 100 at the moment. So let's add in a few of these. And we could also add in a hazardous waste facility as well. I think we may as well. And I have also noticed we've got this modifier where we can reduce industrial garbage by 10% citywide. However, we need the industrial waste processing facility. So let's just have a little look at that. That's 8 points, so it's going to take us 10 points to get there. I think why not? I'm probably going to want to put in this building properly at some point. So I'm not opposed to that. And then, yes, we can add in this garbage modifier, which will be quite nice. So that'll reduce the amount of industrial waste we are producing, which I think will be very helpful indeed. The others are kind of pollution reducers, as we're playing with no pollution and cheating a bit to that extent. They don't really matter too much, so I'm not so worried about those. And then we can just add in a few little garbage trucks over here, I think. And that should finish off the functionality of the building, although they're kind of spawning over there, which is a little bit disappointing. So if we move these and adjust them so they're actually up against the road, Does that change that? Let's see if we can see a garbage truck leaving now. Nope, they still disappear and spawn over here. Okay, well that's fine. So what I want to do anyway to kind of make this seem like an actual garbage site is turn it into a small little junkyard along here, and then we'll just have some abandoned pier end to it and make all these rail yards very kind of overgrown, mossy and concretey. Probably a similar thing to this abandoned wharf over here, just very plain and disused. A space that the city just hasn't come along to redevelop or gentrify, as of just yet at least. So I have to start by sincerely apologising that I completely screwed up the recording and basically didn't record most of that. But here is our finished rail yard, and we will take a closer look around now. Still loads more detailing to come in these areas over here, so I will make up for it again. I'm so sorry. Anyway, here we go. So we did pop in some... This is actually EE commercial on the side here, but I quite like these sort of modern looking buildings. Definitely squeezed in at this point, with a little yard out the back with some tables, nicely tree lined away from the abandoned rail, which we'll come back to in just a second. That works pretty well there. We've obviously got our abandoned rail line in here with some little barriers in the front to stop people from driving down there, I guess. I mean, there's nothing technically to stop them. And then, of course, we've got our post office here. Pretty simple. Some nice flower bed detailing with a little bit of sort of cobblestone surface, a little bit older. Obviously, the yard out here, nothing much to that. A bit of fencing and some lighting that we've put into there. And then we come on to a small abandoned yard. Now, most of this is just Real Vision decals, which are, by the way, now available on Paradox Mods for those of you who have been wanting them. I believe Static Noise is also putting up the net lanes and the surfaces, but the decals are already up, and I will link that in this video description. So go and get them if you haven't already. Go and show Static Noise some love. And just a quick note that if you have already been using the local versions from GitHub, you won't be able to transfer to the PDX mod, so you have to wait for a new city for that. But it's very exciting. Anyway, we come on to our little service yard for our garbage area here, which is working. I actually saw a garbage truck a moment ago bringing some stuff in, and he actually drove nicely in through our little doorway there. I mean, the doorway was closed, but it drove in through there, so that works pretty nicely. I've added a ton of rust decals and dirt decals all over the building just to give it a bit more wear and tear. Oh, I missed this as well. Yeah, I spent quite a while making this little container a bit rusty and mossy over here with some of El Glendo's amazing decals. Lots of trash and debris decals around that and cracks and things. Oh, there we go. We've got a garbage truck. Lovely. Yeah, and then just a ton of decals really to make this surface come alive. So again, this is all Real Vision decals over here, plus some additional surfaces on top. So we've obviously got lots and lots of trash decals, El Glendo's trash decals everywhere. We've got some of the trash piles from the San Francisco set. I did put in some invisible parking spaces around here, so yeah, as you can see, people will park around the building, which is pretty cool. Then we've got some piles of stone mixed in with rubble, some junk cars. I did decide to put in this industrial decoration element here as well, so they're like processing the waste. We've also got an actual garbage pile here with some props and things sticking out of it, which I thought was pretty cool too. But yeah, I like how that's come out. I ended up deleting out that gravel net lane that I had put in over the road and just preferred to kind of make it a little bit more dusty and dirty as we come into the yard here, with some routes left clear for trucks and things to drive around. But yeah, kept it nice and simple. And then here again, this is very simply Real Vision decals plopped all the way over here. The one difficulty I had with this was trying to get this edging nice, and it still looks pretty harsh when you come up close. I did manage to get in some gravel path net lanes here, which takes away a little bit of the severeness when you're slightly further away. Gives it a bit of a rough mossy edge as we go around there. Added in some bushes in places to give it a little bit more 3D look, but that was about it. And then here again, covering up our rail lines was simply these Real Vision decals. I absolutely love this one, this sort of cracked cobblestone with the moss poking through. Perfect. Ton of decals all over our railway cargo crane thing just to make it look old and used and totally abandoned. Obviously some more bushes poking through here and there as well. But yeah, really like the effects of how this has come out, but it was very simply just plopping a lot of decals. There wasn't much else to it. I did put on some stained decals over the top here and there as well to give it some sort of oddities. So we've got some darker stains in this place, for example, just so that we've got some kind of uniqueness as we go up and down the railway tracks. But yeah, pretty pleased with that actually and how that's come out. Again, huge shout out to Static Noise and his Real Vision packs. They are absolutely invaluable. So yeah, go and check out PDX mods to get hold of them nice and easily now. And I do like the effect that we get when we actually look at Fisher's Point. In terms of the gentrification, it's obviously sort of started from this area. We've still got the odd bits that haven't been utilised as of yet, like our little skate park, car park over here, and obviously the big area under the bridge under there. But actually most of this is sort of built up and gentrified and modernised as we go down, and then we come down towards this end where there's lots more of those construction yard patches or patches that haven't been touched yet. So sort of working their way through Fisher's Point is the way I like to look at it. But yeah, there we have it. That is the end of the harbour area. So a few episodes ago, I asked you what you wanted to see on this little island here. And there were so many great suggestions. Like we had a suggestion for an abandoned fort. We had a suggestion for some kind of church or cathedral. We had an awful lot of suggestions along the fort description for some kind of castle or fortification, monument even, on this little island here, and that is what we're going to go down. So I did like the idea of an abandoned fort. However, because we've got Hoskins Castle, which we haven't visited in a while, so let's just go and take a little look at that. Hoskins Castle here with its, wow, floating floating park. Shall we see if we can fix that? There we go. The weird and wonderful goings on of Hoskins Castle over here. Yeah, because we've got our abandoned fort over here with Hoskins Castle, I kind of didn't really want to do necessarily another one of those. And there's one thing we really have not addressed in Fewladelphia, which is tourism. So if we have a look at the little heat map here, we do have a nice load of parks and that sort of thing. We have a few odd hotels around, I suppose. But actually, looking at this area, we're quite attractive for tourists already here because we've got the Neo Barracks, we've got the soccer field is obviously helping that. We've got a couple of parks in here. We're building up an attractive area. And I think we could help that by putting something on this island that's also going to influence that. Now we have tourists 78 per month, so I kind of want to keep an eye on that because that doesn't feel very good right now. And half of the reason is that we actually haven't unlocked tourist attractions. So we haven't got any proper tourist attractions in our city. So we're going to go ahead and unlock that. Then we're going to dive into this menu and see what might fit here. So someone also did mention a big statue on this island. I mean, that could be a little bit of a possibility here, but I kind of want to save him for somewhere closer to the downtown. Perhaps this little island here, maybe, or we might even make our own. We shall see. Wow, we have a death wave. We're going to be addressing that and helping that in just a second. So that will come. We obviously have the observation towers as well, but I feel like that's a bit modern and a bit grand for the likes of Fisher's Point. But the one that I have my eye on is the medieval castle. Now obviously this is getting the fort vibes, but it's a bit more well kept. It's going to be a castle that has been restored and looked after over time, shall we say. And I think that this is going to go quite nicely. Obviously it doesn't really fit the island at the moment. And I could use the static ploppable version of it, which would just about fit and we could landscape around. However, I really am desperate for it to be functional, like I've just shown you in that menu. So I think we're just going to go ahead and use the actual building and then we'll shape the island around it a little bit, I think. Now in terms of like the orientation of it, I think the entrance should be poking out this way across the waters and across the main bay. We have severe death problems absolutely everywhere. So I think we're going to place it in round about here and let's try and get it in the centre of the island so we're not having to change too much of it, but we want to leave a decent gap, I think, between this and the edge of Fisher's Point here too. So let's go around about there and we're going to get a horrendous, blocky looking, awful mess. So let's go and terraform this and make it a little bit more natural. That's a little bit better, and I kind of like the idea that the river has flowed this way into the ocean and kind of beaten up the cliff sides, or beaten in the cliff sides as we can see over this side. And it's kind of on a bit of a rocky crag in the middle of the river opening here. Now we will tidy this up quite a bit, so I'm going to remove a lot of the hedging I think from the outside. I'm not sure about that. We could maybe put it back in around the graveyard, for example. I just feel like it makes it a little bit too neat. And I might trim back some of the trees and things as well and kind of give it our own little touches here and there. We have got a pathway running all the way around the outside as well, so I'd maybe quite like to have some viewpoints potentially off that and connect into it. But we do obviously have to bring a road connection over here. Now, ideal world, I have some small ferries and we'd do a little ferry crossing. Or maybe even a little cable car would be kind of cool here if we ever got cable cars in the game. But for the moment, I'm actually just going to use a bog standard pedestrian road. So let's bring this in alongside the front here, and I'm definitely going to get rid of the car park as well. I don't want people driving onto this island to park there at all. Okay, so we'll bring this all the way up the front, but maybe let's actually just make a little roundabout or some kind of feature on the end here. Something like that, maybe with a key. Something along those lines. I might terraform a little bit so we've got a little bit of landscape underneath this as well. Yeah, something like that's quite nice, and that gives us a little viewpoint over Few Haven and up to Oregon Point there in the background. You can even see Dargreen's vineyard right over there, which is quite a nice little view. Then we want to bridge across this side, so we're not just going to come straight down like that, I don't think. I think we're going to raise it up a little bit. So we'll go up to 5 meters. Try and get this at a 180-degree angle. And then we'll bring it straight across like that. Now I'm going to give it a bit of a hump, I think, in just a second, so we'll come on to that. But then I do want to bring it down here and try and keep it reasonably parallel to that quay that's going to be going in there along the canal. And then what we'll do is we'll put in some car parking spaces in here, a bit of a visitor centre, I think this side, and then essentially people will be able to walk over the bridge from here. Now it's quite a boring bridge, so I'm going to see if we can make it a little bit more interesting by adding a bit of a hump into it. Yeah, just so it's got a tiny bit of curvature, I think will be quite nice there. Now I'm sort of yet to decide if I can do something more interesting with this. I'm very loath to take away from the castle. I think that's the key thing here, so we probably won't do too much to it. I may change up some of the pillars, add some wooden ones, make it a little bit more rustic in that sense, and probably some form of net lane to cover this up as we go up towards the castle there, but that will do for the moment. And then here, I definitely want to add in hotels. I feel like that's going to be a really important factor when we're trying to bring in tourists up to here. And there's one hotel in particular that I think would just lend itself really, really well to this area, which is one of these EU motels, apart from I want the functional version of it. So I'm pretty sure it is this one. Yes, we may as well. I think I actually prefer the level 3. Yeah, we'll go for the level 3. And we'll snap this into this corner here. Let's just adjust this over slightly because it's overlapping the road a little. And I'm going to shift it over and give it a bit of breathing room, because then what we can do is use our decals, these ones, to bring over the edge of the car parking lot onto the main road, which I always think is a very nice little extra realistic detail that we can add. Now we're going to want to try and probably get rid of parking on this road, but we'll come back to that later. And we can add some curbing in there to make it a little bit more pronounced, but that will give us a nice little motel on the corner here, which also has quite a nice little back to it as well. We've got a kind of restaurant seating area, even a pool actually out the back, so it seems like quite a fancy hotel. But I think the old sort of style of it with the EU building goes in quite nicely with the rest of Fisher's Point, so pretty happy with that being there. And then, like I said, what we do want to do is connect in this pedestrian road around the back, so it's sort of like an entry point up into the castle. So we could probably do that right there, although let's just shift it slightly away from the motel again, so we've got a tiny bit of a boundary there, so we can separate sort of the noise of the people walking up to the castle from the actual hotel. And then what we'll do is bring this out into a visitor centre and a car park. So I think I'm going to use this office building for the visitor centre. It seems pretty generic. I like the fact that it's got solar panels on the roof as well. And it seems like the right sort of size for a gift shop or an information centre, that sort of thing, where you can buy your tickets to go and visit the castle. So I think this is nice and appropriate there. And what we'll do is we'll try and get it as close to this road as we can to get it connected, or as far away from this road as we can whilst it's still connected. So about there, and we'll create a really big open courtyard which flows out onto the pedestrian road round to the castle, I think there. And then we want to add in some car parking. Just something like that will do quite nicely, and we'll shape that up and detail a lot of this area when we come to it. And there's loads of people walking over to the castle, which is brilliant. I'm wondering how much our tourism has already gone up. Yeah, so we were on, what was it, 44 or 78? It was 44, that's gone up to 60, 78 has gone up to 119. That is pretty good news, and as you can see, this area is pretty attractive. And I'm also going to help it by adding in a park area in this space as well. So what we are going to do is continue some of the row housing up this road here. We'll add in another road at the other side of this canal, so that just kind of comes to an end at that point. And then behind it, this will be a coastal park area, a large coastal park area in this space. But there is one other thing that I do want to add into here, as you may have seen by all the warnings, although it has calmed down now. It's calmed down quite a lot. It seems like the death wave is coming to an end, but what we are going to do is add in a crematorium, because we desperately need one in Fisher's Point. We need some death care, and I think it's a pretty urgent situation right now. Now, instead of plopping in the actual crematorium, because if we take a little look at it, it's actually pretty huge. It comes with a lot of sort of detailed stuff around it that I'm not sure I necessarily want in this area, and it's going to take away from our park area as well. We're actually going to use the static ploppable buildings for this. So I'm going to place in the main crematorium here. I'm also going to place in the little garage to the side of it as well, as a bit of an extension onto the side here. And what that can do is give us space for our hearses out in this area. So if we then come back to Deathcare, we've got our service block. So let's place it nicely inside our crematorium in here. And as we come back out, we can see the upgrades here. So body processing, we're definitely going to need that. So let's place a few of these in here. 250 bodies a month. I don't know, maybe that's okay. We'll add in some body storage as well. This all sounds pretty morbid. Increases storage space for 10,000 deceased bodies. Long-term care boost. Okay, well, yeah, why not? I don't know if this is necessarily the right place. We may come back and move that further along the city, but we've got it in anyway. So here, now we can add in, let's turn off snapping to the buildings. We can add in our hearses. So we can have a nice big bit of hearse parking out here. Now I'm thinking again, I might just go for the single assets here. Because similar to our garbage lorries and our postal vans, done a lot of services in this episode. We get those yellow decals with them, and I kind of don't necessarily want that in this space. So we're going to add in individual hearses. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We could potentially add in a couple more on the side here, like so. And then hopefully, this is going to help our deathcare issues in Fisher's Point at least. So let's just bring out a alleyway road into there to give ourselves an entrance. We'll also get rid of these crossings here too. We don't need those. And then with a ton of detailing around it, we can turn that into an actual crematorium. But that is now functional, hopefully. We've got 11 vehicles. We'll see. We'll see as time goes on. It's also giving us a few more jobs as well, which is very handy indeed. Now, one quick thing to mention in this space as well is I have mentioned this before. We've got a ferry stop over here. I would like longer term, once we hopefully maybe get some smaller stops or an asset editor in the game, like to leave a space for a small ferry stop here, because the route round on the road at the moment is pretty epic. Like you have to drive all the way out here and down this road to get into Fisher's Point. If we had a ferry crossing here, I think a lot of people would take it. And then it can also go on to another harbour down here close to Tinney as well, which is just going to cut out and help our traffic situation, I think. This road in particular gets extraordinarily busy. It's actually not too bad at the moment. But yeah, we do get little backups of traffic. I mean, again, you know, it's not unrealistic, is it, to have a little bit of traffic? So it's not too bad right now, but it does get pretty busy on occasion. So what I do want to do here is also terraform out another kind of element to our harbour here, which is going to be where, hopefully, eventually, further along the line, we can add in a small ferry stop. So we're going to leave it as a bit of an abandoned harbour area, very similar to this, or similar to our wharfs, for example, over here. But we'll just mark where it's going to be and leave that space for now for, shall we say, redevelopment further along the line. And I'd also like to keep this a bit more open, and then we can cut it back in here to imagine that ships once upon a time had a bit of a bay right next to our cargo loading station here too. So we'll make this into a little bit more of an interesting shape than it currently has been, at least, to allow that space for some larger ships to dock at that point. And of course the other good thing about potentially having a ferry stop here as well is we're really close to the tram line to get people in and around the rest of the city, and we're also close to, obviously, a major tourist attraction in the city, which is great. Oh yes, we've got lots and lots of people moving around now. Let's have one more quick check of tourism. Up to 131, up to 62. It's still boosting in attractiveness, which is good. We don't have anyone moved into our motel yet. Maybe we need a little bit more attractiveness in this space. So yeah, watch this space. Oh, someone with 1,000 dogs is going up there now. Brilliant. But anyway, that is the plan for this area. So we're keeping it pretty simple with the castle, but we will do a lot of detailing around it to help it blend in and make it feel a bit more natural than this solid square shape that we've got in at the moment. We'll obviously come in and put in our park, add our row housing into here, and our abandoned, yet to be developed dock out this side. So it is official. Fisher's Point is my current favourite area of the city. I'm so pleased with how this is turning out. And I love all the greenery as we come to this end of the district here. So yeah, I think it's come together quite nicely. We've obviously got our abandoned harbour pier thing here waiting for that ferry stop and some modernisation and a bit of a redo. Really love the Real Vision decals, like holy moly, go and get them if you haven't already, like I said earlier. Just so good. All of these cracks and this kind of sandy patch in the middle of it, some tyre marks over there. I love how that sort of breaks it up, and I went for the idea that this area was once a building or something was here, and that's why the concrete looks different from a base perspective there. So yeah, loving the abandoned piers, and we'll definitely have more of them throughout Fewladelphia. It's not going to be limited to purely Fisher's Point, that's for sure. But yeah, for now, we'll stop doing abandoned piers and we'll move on to something else. But yeah, here we go. So we squeezed in some row housing along here, which works quite nicely with the quay in the background. Made this road a little bit smarter as the entrance road into the abandoned, closed off wharf down there. We stuck in a little garage here too. I thought a gas station on the corner, always needed. Haven't got too many throughout Fisher's Point actually. There's a couple dotted around, but I think most of them are down the other end of Fisher's Point. It's always nice to have a gas station here, or a petrol station, whatever you might want to call it. Also got a small office in here, loving this surface as well. This is another one from the Real Vision Surface Pack, I believe. Awesome, awesome, with the little holes in them as well. So good. Still no one in our hotel, which is slightly worrying. I did decide to bulk in the parks here too, so we've got some little pocket parks on the corner here. Thought this would be quite nice. Look out over the, well, the empty wharfs. Might get a glimpse of the downtown in the background over there behind our big modern offices. Oh, I do like that shot actually, with the cranes, the smokestack from the junkyard, and then those big modern offices in the background. You can almost see round to the Navy Yard there too. So yeah, nice little view there. Car park is getting busy and we've got our visitor centre, so I didn't really do too much to this other than some surfaces and adding in the bollards, obviously some greenery around. A couple more pocket parks in here too, just so there's lots of space for people to hang around the entrance to the visitor centre. And then we come up through a slightly weird glitch there onto our bridge of 1,000 dogs again. And I raised up the net lanes using Move It to cover the bridge, so we do get this nice kind of herringbone-ish pattern as we come up here. And changing out the paths for Gaga XMs. Actually, I think this is Pebble's surface here. Made such a difference around this castle. Get rid of that sort of stagnant vanilla surface that was in there and make it a bit more natural. Loving this. I can also see there's people walking on the path and there's someone on the bench over here, which is wonderful. Yes, love that. Most people seem to visit the graveyard in the castle though, which is slightly odd, but it is what it is. Added in a small little cafe over here up to a fountain viewpoint that we put in before. Love this, looking out over the ocean. You can see those buoys in the background as well from the ferry line, which will obviously change slightly to come into that position. You do get quite a nice view back towards Fisher's Point from over here as well. Really enjoying that with the Grand Harbour Bridge in the background. You can also see the satellite dishes from the Oregon Broadcasting Company right there over the back of the stadium as well. Lots of little details to enjoy there. But yeah, I really didn't do very much to this castle. I removed some of the bigger trees from the outside so the path is a little bit more open, so you can enjoy those views as you walk around the path and you get to actually see across to Fewhaven and Gaudy Bay up to Oregon Point as you walk around. We've obviously got a little lighthouse out here too on a rocky little island, which I thought was quite a nice little touch as you come in through this river opening, marking that little rocky island there. And yeah, lots of just kind of odd boulders scattered around. Very similar to the edge we've got on the park, which I'll come to in just a second. A few little bushes around, the odd boulder. And I think it sits in pretty nicely. We've got so many people going over to the castle now, which is fantastic to see. And if we take a quick look at tourism, it's up to 160 a month. I'm not sure about the average hotel night cost. I don't think that's changed substantially. It keeps fluctuating a little bit. But our city attractiveness has now shot up to 96. We're like right up in the dial, which is brilliant. I mean, you can see all the green around this area. Certainly a tourist trap area, which is really disappointing that we don't have a hotel company having moved in here, but never mind. And then as we come over to our park, you can see we've got our little humpback bridge, pedestrian bridge here that someone is nicely using. I love that. And then we come into our park, which is made using the block services. So we've got lots of little pocket parks within this park to make it quite attractive. So like this tree park here, obviously got rid of all of the surfaces and put in our own cobblestones around that. Nice little flower bed in the middle. I'm loving this surface, which we also used for the abandoned rail line as well. That sort of old cobble running throughout the park I think is quite nice indeed. I did put a few little campground... Oh, there's a bush blocking that one, but... A few little campground shelters out here and some benches are dotted along the coast. Got another little pocket park here, a little gym area, which I kept quite stagnant. I thought it probably would be concreted underneath the gym area at least. So yeah, we've got that there. Again, another tree park here, no surfaces on that one. A little dog park using the amazing Gaga XM's pebble surfaces here. And you can layer them obviously to get that sort of spillage on the outside, which makes it look much more natural. Absolutely loving that. And then we come up to another lighthouse at the top here on a rocky corner. I think again, just marking where that sticks out into the river, which I don't think is always that obvious. Got a little gravel car park in here, which again, we've used a few decals on to muddy it up and make it look a little bit less stagnant, shall we say, than the entrance to our block services park right here, with someone waiting for something or other. So that was that, and then we just tidied up this end, added in the row housing like I said. I love these little Northeast USA houses, I think they are. Super nice and bright and colourful, but they've also got that slight separation to them, which I think gives them a nice edge on the edge of town here, slightly less packed in and that sort of thing. And a few row houses and a couple of blocks of condos out this side with a little car park. And they all head on to more of that beach texture as we run around here. So that beach runs around that little bay area, which I think is quite nice to round off the edge of the river. And then the crematorium just did a little bit of surface work really around here to make a nice patio area out the back where, I want to say guests, but it's probably not that. People attending ceremonies can gather. Obviously our hearse parking, which is quite nicely separated with the hedge now and the tree there. So it's sort of segregated away from the main building. Sits in pretty nicely there. And I think that is about it. But it's lovely seeing all these people moving around. That gives me immense satisfaction. And all of Fisher's Point really feels quite busy. You can see as we follow this road round, lots of people walking along the coast here. A few more up this side, waiting at the tram stop. I'm loving the way the tram flows through the area too. And then, yeah, a ton more up this high street bit where we've got a few mixed use shops in play here. Yeah, I absolutely love this area of the city, and I'm really pleased with how that sort of rounds off the end of it. Lots more green in there as well for the people that said, obviously, I put no green space in this area here. So hopefully that makes up for it a little bit by giving them a lovely park and a lovely castle on the edge of Fisher's Point. So we have obviously got more of Fisher's Point to complete, which is this hillside up here. If you have ideas for it, let me know in the comments below. There still might be time for me to adjust some plans. Not sure whether this will be 1 or 2 episodes. I'm still yet to determine the absolute final plan for it. So we'll see how that goes. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts about where you want to head next. There's still a lot of map to do, in particular this area to kind of conjoin Fisher's Point up to Few Haven. We've also got this space out here, which I'm thinking another town would be absolutely prime for. We've got the valley areas and the hills around Tinney to do. And obviously this whole big peninsula, which is going to head up towards the downtown. So let me know where you would like to head next, and we'll see where we go. But for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. And if you have found yourself really enjoying the content, there are ways to support the channel linked in the description below. But that is all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.